Okay, so afternoon and welcome to Ruf HQ. I'm joined by Marcel Ruf, who's a son of Alois, third generation from the Ruf family. Thank you very much for your time today.
It's a pleasure.
We've come a long way, haven't we, since the early days, and it was actually a 356 that started the Ruf family dynasty, if you like.
Indeed, it was just a little gas station that my grandfather founded in 1939. And having also his own self-made bus built, where he was offering rides and voyages. He was driving with that bus and then he was passed by a Porsche 356. Porsche immediately had an accident after it had passed the bus, so it was on the side of the road, flipped over, and so my grandfather stopped, took the guy out, we towed in the car and just waited for the gentleman to call us, tell us that he's back to health. He immediately sold the car to my grandfather, said, I give you a very low price for the broken car because I don't want to keep the car. So in 1963, in fall, that happened. And so over winter to the year 1964, my grandfather repaired it, resprayed it. And so he had a good to-go Porsche. What happened was that together with my father, who was 14 back then, they had a father-son Sunday trip with the new Porsche, and on a red traffic light, somebody knocked at the window and said, please pull over, I'm interested in buying this car. And so the car was sold on the spot. And the funny thing was that even to get home and pick up the papers, father and son were given another Porsche from the buyer to take his car, drive home, get the papers and bring them back. And while being on the way back, of course, they were totally dreaming. They said, this is not happening. There was no negotiation on the price. You get paid cash right away. And even to get the papers at home, they give you another Porsche to drive home. And so, of course, with my father being 14 and totally enthusiastic about the new 911 that just came out in 1963, he said to his father, we have to continue. This is a very cool market. Let's continue working on Porsches. And so the next Porsches came to our workshop and were repaired.
From there, Ruf was all about servicing and restoring and repairing Porsches, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a natural growth, but then we immediately also in the 70s realized that we can improve the cars.
Yeah.
So as a natural thing, the radiators and the cooling of the air-cooled cars in summertime was a bit difficult, so we just made bigger radiators and then bigger air intakes on the front bumper so that the cooling would work for the car. And starting with that, we also found out you can improve the power, you can improve the sound. So we named ourselves Tuning and Styling in the 70s. And until the late 70s, this became so sophisticated and so already highly individualized for every customer that we also came to the conclusion it must be under our own name with our own VIN number. And so in 1981, we became accepted as a car manufacturer by the German government.
Which is incredible for what is still to this day a family business. I mean, you're saying yourself you have 60 employees that pump out 30 cars a year, so that's a car every 2 weeks, give or take.
We always say that we are a manufactory. People come to us because we do everything they want. They give us a very specific definition what special options they want. And the first thing is always that we in general never say no. There are 3 criteria, which is the road regulations, if it is legal to do it, the budget, and of course also the taste, if the customer wants this. So if all of this comes together, then we can realize something.
There are those that are in the know and really appreciate the car, and then there are perhaps others that just they don't know about the car or something. Is that fair to say?
When it comes to a Ruf car, you really must have, or you must be in very deep. Like you already know so much about these cars, so much about other cars.
Yes.
So when you own a Ruf car, the specific situation is you stop on a red light, and some people might just say, oh yeah, it's a nice sports car, it's a nice 911. And then there's one guy maybe out of 10 who's completely freaking out, pulling out his iPhone, stopping you getting in front of the car so you cannot drive off. And he says, I have to take the picture because it's the first time I see a Ruf car in reality.
Yes. We're over the road here from the Porsche Service Centre, which I think has been here for 9 years now, you said?
Yes, yes.
You have a very special relationship with Porsche, don't you?
Yeah, from our point of view, we have always been a big admirer of the 911 because the Porsche 911 for us is the greatest sports car that was ever born. We always try to compliment on the car and just make it a bit more individualized for every customer, and also by technology make it a bit stronger.
Yeah.
And with our Porsche Service Center that is here in Pfaffenhausen, we of course also want to maintain the service for everybody who's a Porsche owner, no matter if he has any relation with Ruf or not.
The car that put you on the map was obviously the CTR of 1987,
Yes.
And particularly that video that's still on YouTube of the Yellowbird at the Nürburgring. You went back to the CTR for the CTR 2017. How important was that car to you?
The Yellowbird is a car that made us from one day to another internationally renowned.
Yes.
The background was because it was the big American car magazine Road and Track that made the world's fastest car test, and we were the world's fastest car with all the big companies that were slower. So that was a huge success for us, and also helped growing our company in the late 80s. No matter if it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago, or just yesterday, everybody talks about this car, everybody's crazy about this car, because the specialty of this car is that you had this modern engine technology with 2 turbochargers that did not even exist at Porsche back then in the late 80s, in a car that was a narrow, lightweight, pure 911 body, and that makes it just a complete unique package. And this car still today is very, very strong. When you accelerate, it still has fast cornering speeds. With all of these compliments continuously, for us it was clear that we need to come and build again a car, as you can see here on this new chassis, that is compact, light, is reduced to the classical shape of a 911, but of course now has all the modern technology underneath. We have the latest suspension, we have carbon fiber skin, so it's only 1,200 kilos. And we have of course a very strong engine, but good handling, and again, very little electronics. No automatic systems that take away the control from the driver. So the driver is really challenged to stay and be the boss.
All of the 2017 cars are sold out, and they sold out within a week.
That was the biggest compliment that ever happened to our company. For my father, it is a long dream to build our complete own chassis from scratch. And that's what we showed in Geneva in March 2017, to say now Ruf has always been its own manufacturer, but now we're manufacturing a complete car ourselves. There's no more base car needed. And also with the philosophy, as I just mentioned, to have the classical features of the old Yellowbird from 1987 in a modern car reinterpreted. And so for us it is a big compliment, but at the same time we also feel very, very responsible to fulfill those orders and come up with a perfect car for these 30 people. And of course for more to come in the future, because that's not the last car that it comes from Ruf with its own chassis.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, with that in mind, we're sitting next to the SCR. This is a prototype, is it not?
Exactly. This is the very first car that exists of the SCR. We showed it in Geneva to get the information out to these people who could not sign up for the first 30 cars. Tell them on the one thing, there is a normally aspirated version, not just a turbo version. And secondly, this car is not limited. So that's the perfect solution. You have the modern new Ruf chassis, and you have a 4-liter normally aspirated engine. The central structural element of the new chassis is the carbon fiber monocoque. We call it the tub, and that piece saves a lot of weight, of course, and also keeps us flexible, because the front end and the rear end is a welded assembly that can be, of course, changed. So we can stay with the central piece and then just play around with the variation of the chassis.
Brilliant. Marcel, thank you so much again for letting us come around and see the place. It's been absolutely amazing. Thanks
You're welcome.
very much for your time today. Thank you.
You're welcome.